Hello and welcome back to my channel, Living Well with Mandy. I am Mandy and I am so happy to have you all here today while I talk about how I typically like to structure and prepare for my in-person beginner sourdough bread classes. I teach 1 to 2 in-person classes each month at my home in South Florida, and I also teach about 1 online class a month. I structure the online classes a little bit differently than the in-person classes for obvious reasons, but what I'm doing here is I'm actually preparing a loaf. It's early in the morning and I'm preparing a loaf of sourdough bread to have ready to show my students in the class what it looks like after it's finished with its bulk fermentation. So I like to get up early and prepare the loaf. I actually also had sea turtle work really early this particular morning. So I had to get up super early to prepare my starter to have it ready by the time I got home. And then I could go ahead and mix and prepare my dough as soon as I walked in the door. I also have a 6-year-old daughter, so sometimes the classes can be a little challenging because as I'm preparing, I also have to take care of my daughter and be a mother, of course. So again, in this video, just going to prepare and mix my dough, and then I will do my stretch and folds in between playing with my daughter, and then have this loaf prepared and ready to go as soon as the students show up. I typically will have my classes in the afternoon. This gives me enough time to prepare everything in the morning so that I know that I have everything prepped and ready to go, because also with the loaf that is ready to bake, I also will have a sourdough starter that is at its peak so that the students can see what that looks like. So I have to get up really early and prep everything so that everything has enough time to ferment before my class actually gets started. So that's what you see me doing here is I am feeding my sourdough starter so that it has enough time to reach its peak and be ready as soon as the students show up. So this can kind of be tricky sometimes depending on the temperature of my house and exactly how much time I have. So I typically will have to adjust my feeding ratio accordingly. So in this particular video, I did a 1:1:1 ratio because I wanted it to be ready for them as soon as they showed up. And typically I will do a 1:2:2 ratio because I have a little bit more time than I had today. But this ended up working out perfectly. I placed my starter on top of the fridge and let it do its thing while I prepared some other things. And I also had to get my daughter some lunch and some snacks while I was preparing for the class and getting everything set up. She actually got to watch a movie, which was a special treat for her, and I got everything ready to go for the class. So after I got her snack ready, I printed off all of my instructions because all of the students go home with printed and digital instructions on how to make a loaf of bread, and I got everything else set up and ready to go. I like to have a couple snacks for everybody, and I also have fresh lemon water and tea for everyone in case they need some of that or want some of that during the class. And then I like to set up my bread kits. So I always offer different tools and items for people to go home with if they want to. These are actually an additional cost. So if people want to buy a banneton or a bread lame or anything like that, they do have to pay an additional fee for that. So while this is going on, I am also baking a few fresh loaves of sourdough bread for everybody to eat and enjoy while the class is going on. Who doesn't love a warm loaf of sourdough bread? You cannot come to a sourdough class without getting to taste the end product, right? So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just preparing my loaves. My little girl is still watching her movie, and I'm just going to quickly give these a nice little score and then place them in the oven and then finish setting the rest of the class up. Again, with cups and little plates for everyone. I set out butter and snacks And I also put out pens in case anybody wants to take notes. And it's just kind of a fun little setup for everyone. I think that everyone really enjoys it. And I absolutely love teaching the classes. It's one of my favorite things to do. I love being able to spread this knowledge that I have gained over the last year and a half into my community. And it just brings me so much joy knowing that people are enjoying homemade real sourdough bread instead of the store-bought bread that you see all the time with all the crummy ingredients. It's just one of my absolute favorite things to do. So here I am just right before a class, just double checking everything, making sure everything looks good, and I have everybody's cups and everything ready to go in case they want water, and just doing any last minute things that I feel need to be moved around or changed. During the class, I structure it so that I walk through each step of the sourdough process, starting with a sourdough starter, and we talk about how to make one and also how to maintain it and keep it healthy and thriving. And then we go through each step of the mixing process as well as the bulk fermentation all the way up to the baking. I have everything already prepped and ready to go so that they can visibly see everything, which I feel really helps them to understand the process. They go home with some of my sourdough starter and also all of my instructions. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that you enjoyed this video.